What's the point? The point is that flashcards are out and columns are in. Flashcards are a tool used for studying, the conception of which is not entirely clear. We know for sure that they were used a lot in the last 100 years, and then especially in the last 50, and most definitely when it came to learning languages. As I was going through school, it was a general assumption that if you were going to be a good student, you had your flashcards to study with, and this was no different when it came to language learning. Now, I will confess that flashcards for me just never felt right. You make them and you write them, which makes sense, but then you just start flashing them in front of your zoned out eyes. It just seems really worthless. When I started out my master's degree, one of my professors showed us this really neat task, which really takes advantage of the first part of making flashcards, the making of them, and then improves on it. But since I don't remember what he called them, I'm just going to give it my simple name. Columns. Essentially, what you do is you repeat the making of the flashcards over and over and over. Now, it's not as bad as you might think it seems. Here's how it works. First, you take a blank sheet of paper. Lined paper is the best because it allows you to keep some continuity in your work. You then take that paper and fold it up a couple times, hot dog style. After folding it up hot dog style a couple times, you can embellish it a little bit and draw some lines along those folds just to make that distinction really clear. Then, consider what you're learning. I'm explaining this task for the sake of learning vocabulary of a foreign language, specifically Spanish. Make a list of that vocab in the first column. Start out in the language you know, English, for example. Write out that list of vocab and stop with what fills up the page. If you have more than what will fit on that first page, then just repeat the task anew after finishing the first list here. After writing out your first list in one language, designate the second column as the language you want to practice with, in this case, Spanish. Then, after your books and notes are closed, begin translating the words in to the second column. Once you've finished, you should have two columns, the first in English and the second in Spanish. You should also have some mistakes. It's not just going to be perfect the first time around. Pull out your book or notes and make some corrections. With those corrections made, fold back your first column so that it is underneath the rest of the page and you can't see it, and put away your book and notes again. The only thing that should be visible is the second column in Spanish and the other two blank columns. Once you're here, start translating the Spanish words into English in the third column. With the third column filled, you'll notice that you're back at step 1 with a column filled with the list of vocab in English. Can you guess what happens next? That's right, fold the first two columns underneath the rest of the paper so that only the third and fourth columns are visible. And now, you guessed it, translate the third column into Spanish in the fourth column. From here, you wash, rinse, and repeat as many times as it helps you to understand and learn the vocabulary. Don't stop at one page either. As long as you adhere to these basic steps, then you got it under wraps. Remember what I said about repeating the task if your original vocab list was longer than one page? Now is the time to start over with the rest of your vocab. Start at the beginning with them and do more and more columns. So, as you can see, columns takes that first part of the flashcard making, often understood as the most important part, and improves on it so that you really do well with remembering your vocabulary. By actively making you translate the words over from one language to another, you aren't passively viewing these words being flashed in front of your face. You have to engage with the word, contemplate it, and then translate it without any support or confirmation until you finish that step or that column. It might seem rough, but I truly believe this is a good alternative for flashcards, and flashcards for language learning. The point is that flashcards are out and columns are in.